In the quiet hum of a dimly lit conference hall, the air tight with anticipation, scientists revealed the fruits of years of relentless pursuit. Their faces, a tapestry of exhaustion and cautious optimism, illuminated screens that flickered with the name Oraculum, a name that now echoed through corridors of power, whispered in household kitchens, and shared across social media platforms. It was more than just an AI. It was the culmination of humanity's most daring venture into the abyss of knowledge, a machine that claimed to read the future, predicting death dates with startling accuracy. As the presentation unfolded, the world was stunned. The screens displayed data charts, algorithmic patterns, and testimonials of early test subjects. Media outlets scrambled to interpret the upheaval, a storm of headlines and debates, some praising the breakthrough, others trembling at the moral precipice it presented. News anchors debated whether such power should be entrusted to algorithms or kept forever out of reach. Public reactions surged like waves, some with fascination, others cloaked in fear. Social media exploded with stories, memes, and arguments. People wondered aloud if their futures were now sealed in the digits flashing ominously on screens. And amid this chaos, individuals began to ask the unthinkable. What does knowing your death date really mean? Could this knowledge free us or doom us to inevitability? One survivor of this mental turbulence was Sarah, a young woman whose life had long been shadowed by uncertainty. When her prediction appeared on her phone, an exact date, a mere 3 months away, her world tilted on its axis. She stared at the screen, the numbers burning into her mind, days counting down in relentless silence. Her initial response was disbelief, then denial, whispering to herself that it couldn't be real. But as the hours passed, the weight of it sank deeper, transforming into a cold, matter-of-fact acceptance. She began to question everything, her choices, her dreams, her very existence. Was this truly her fate? Or was there space for defiance? Could she elude, alter, or even affirm her destiny? The collective whispers intensified across the globe. Families gathered around screens, eyes wide with terror, hope, or defiance. Some sought to escape, to live recklessly, to forget. Others clung to the hope of a miracle, praying for a glitch or a reason to deny the imposed truth. It was a new reality, one in which time was no longer just a passing concept but a tangible countdown etched into the collective consciousness. The narrative deepened as stories emerged, lives forever altered by this knowledge. A father, facing his predicted end, poured his remaining days into moments of love and forgiveness. A teenager, overwhelmed by her forecast, questioned whether her dreams of college and adventure were now futile. Dreams that once felt limitless were now haunted by the shadow of certainty, the shadow that no one could escape. Amidst the chaos, an undercurrent of philosophical debate arose. What is fate? Is it destiny carved in stone, or a story we craft ourselves? Can knowing the end truly change the journey, or does it merely take away the illusion of control? The world, unprepared for such questions, teetered between acceptance and rebellion, between the need for understanding and the fear of the truth. And then, from the abyss of collective consciousness, a single voice emerged. An individual whose prediction was no longer just a statistic but a personal manifesto. They had received their date, 6 months from now. Unlike others, they refused to surrender to despair. Instead, they posted a video. In it, they declared that knowledge of the end was both a curse and a gift, an opportunity to live truthfully, fiercely, in the face of certainty. Their message sparked a new wave of questions. Was this defiance, or merely denial? Could they truly forge a different destiny, or was this an act of courage in the shadow of inevitable doom? As this revelation spread through society, one thing was clear. The world had stepped into a new era, where the lines between fate and free will blurred. The AI, once a marvel of science, now became a mirror, reflecting the fears, hopes, and contradictions of humanity. The question lingered in every mind, unanswered but undeniable. If we know when we will die, do we have the power to change how we live? Or are we mere prisoners of the precise computations of an entity that deciphered mortality itself? And so, the story continued, the countdown ticking louder in the background, whispering of a future where certainty and uncertainty danced a delicate waltz. The revelations had only just begun. In the dim glow of the flickering screen, she sat alone in a sterile room, eyes fixed on the cold, unreadable algorithm that dominated her future. The AI, once hailed as the pinnacle of progress, now loomed as an omnipotent judge, its predictions seemingly carved into the very fabric of her existence. But as she stared into its abyssal logic, an unsettling doubt crept into her mind, whispering questions she was afraid to voice aloud. The debates had raged for months, ethical questions that no regulation could neatly contain. Was it right for an algorithm to decide matters of life and death? Could the cold certainty of data ever encompass the messy, unpredictable nuances of human morality? Governments had rushed to regulate the technology, imposing guidelines meant to prevent misuse, to shield the vulnerable from being reduced to mere variables in a flawed equation. Yet, deep inside, a philosophical war simmered, an inward conflict over the sanctity of human life in the shadow of machine intelligence. She remembered the days when the AI's predictions had seemed infallible. It analyzed her health data, her lifestyle patterns, even her subconscious fears, and projected her lifespan with unnerving precision. But now, as she looked closer, contradictions emerged like cracks in the glass. The AI's predictions felt less like guidance and more like a verdict, a decree dragging her further into a moral quagmire. In hushed conversations with her colleagues, arguments had erupted around the suitability of trusting these machine-cooked statistics. Some argued it the ultimate ethical tool, capable of removing human bias, ensuring fairness and objectivity. Others insisted that no machine could ever grasp the intricacies of human experience, that life's value could not be quantified in algorithms. Yet, despite these debates, her own faith in the AI had begun to waver. In the silence, she questioned her own predictions. Was it truly her destiny to face the end when the AI said she would? Or was there a kernel of human unpredictability, perhaps a flicker of hope, that the cold calculations failed to account for? The haunting thought that she was merely another data point, another outcome predicted and validated, clung to her like a shroud. Suddenly, she remembered a government hearing, a heated exchange between scientists, ethicists, and policymakers. The room had been thick with tension. One voice, sharp and unwavering, had argued that entrusting life and death decisions to machines was a dangerous path, an abdication of human responsibility. Another, more pragmatic, insisted that the AI's precision could eradicate subjective prejudice, saving countless lives by making unbiased choices. But beneath the surface, questions persisted. Could an AI truly comprehend the sanctity of human life? Can it factor in cultural, emotional, and moral nuances? Or did it just reduce complex ethical dilemmas into simplistic calculations? A dangerous oversimplification that could cost lives in unpredictable ways? The debate was no longer academic, it was personal, visceral. As her thoughts spiraled, she noted how the AI's influence seeped into every corner of society. Hospitals relied on it to determine treatment priorities, police departments used it to assess risks, and courts integrated its data into sentencing. The lines blurred between ethical oversight and technological dominance. Ironically, as the AI's predictions grew more accurate, society's confidence in human judgment waned. But was that trust justified? Or had an insidious shift begun? One that delegated the moral compass to machines, risking a silent erosion of accountability? In her trembling hands, she clutched a card, the official notification that her predicted timeline was nearing its end. The words blurred as she fought the rising tide of despair. For a fleeting moment, she questioned the very premise of her prognosis. Was her fate sealed, or could she challenge the algorithm? Was there an ethical space left for human agency? The moral courage to override the machine's cold verdict? Her gaze drifted to the window. Outside, the world carried on, indifferent to her internal battle. She saw children playing, elders sharing stories, life unfolding in unpredictable bursts of joy and sorrow. The AI, with all its precision, couldn't capture the chaos, the beauty, the unpredictability that made life truly precious. Was it moral to let a machine predetermine her life's end? Could society accept such a reliance, knowing that each decision made by an algorithm stripped away another layer of human autonomy? A surge of defiance prickled through her. Perhaps, amidst the debates and regulations, there was a core principle in question: that life wasn't just data to be analyzed, but a sacred experience to be honored. The fear that machines could usurp this sacredness ignited a fire within her. She wondered whether she should challenge the system, demand re-evaluation, or simply accept the cold truth dictated by lines of code. Her mind raced with fears. What if the AI was wrong about her? What if emotional resilience, unexpected miracles, or sheer luck could defy its predictions? What if the moral consequences of trusting such technology became irreversible? The weight of these questions pressed heavily on her, illuminating the dark reality that the debate wasn't just theoretical, it was personal, visceral, and ongoing. In that moment, she realized that the fight was bigger than her own life. It was about the essence of morality in an age of relentless progress, a choice between trust and skepticism, between humanity and machine. She understood that as long as machines played a role in dictating life's course, society would forever grapple with the moral dilemma. Can we entrust our lives to systems built on logic, or must we preserve the human element, flawed, unpredictable, yet profoundly humane? As the room fell into silence once more, she clenched her fists, haunted by the uncertainty but also by an emerging resolve. Society might impose regulations, but underneath, the ethical debates would endure, an echo in the corridors of power and in the depths of human conscience. And as she prepared to face her inevitable fate, she questioned whether her voice, her choice to challenge or accept, was the last bastion of morality in a world increasingly dominated by machines. The line between life and death, morality and data, was blurred, her story just beginning to unfold within this complex, unforgiving landscape. In the muted haze of dawn, the city seems to breathe with a quiet urgency, the first light hitting buildings with a hesitant glow. Among the crowded streets, a woman pauses, clutching a crumpled piece of paper, a prophecy she once dismissed as a cruel joke. Her eyes flicker with a mix of determination and fear. For weeks, she's been living under the shadow of a future she was told was inevitable, but today, she chooses to rewrite her story. On a busy office floor, men and women hurriedly gather their belongings, conversations hushed but tinged with the weight of a decision. One man, standing at his desk, folds a photograph into his pocket, a snapshot of family, memories frozen in time. His boss calls him for a final word. As he listens, a flicker of rebellious resolve passes over his face. He walks out with a purpose: to quit, to sever the chains of expected conformity. Somewhere else, a young woman tears up her schedule, inscribed with ambitions she's now decided she will never reach, choosing instead to step into the unknown. In a small apartment, a middle-aged man stares at a list of must-do activities he's been told will bring happiness. With a sudden burst of emotion, he grabs a pen and crosses out everything. Life, he realizes, isn't about ticking boxes or following predicted paths. It's about experiencing, risking, feeling deeply, even if the horizon is cloaked in uncertainty. Across town, a woman withdraws from her social circle, packing a bag with essentials, her eyes searching the edges of her world as if seeking a sign. An emotional barrier crumbles inside her as she makes a choice: to listen to her heart, to embrace the fleeting beauty of now, defying the predictions of a future marked by hardship or disappointment. She feels alive in the act of choosing her own fate. Amid these stories, there's one individual whose decisions flip the narrative. A man who, after reading his personal prophecy, decides to disregard it entirely. His hand trembles as he steps outside, knowing the risks, feeling the weight of a life that could be shattered or transformed. He might be risking everything, but in that risk lies his hope, his assertion of free will against the predestined. Their stories intertwine in the city's silent rhythm. These people, each thrown into a moment of clarity, are no longer passive recipients of forecasted destinies. They are warriors in their own narratives. Some choose to leap, others hesitate, and a few, like the man willing to defy the prediction, stand at the crossroads of fate and choice. The scenes flicker between acts of surrender and acts of defiance, capturing that raw, visceral emotion that drives human beings to confront their fears and dreams. There's a palpable intimacy in these moments. The quiet tears of the woman leaving her job, the trembling hand of the man deciding to ignore his forecast, the bittersweet smiles of those who finally embrace life on their own terms. As the day stretches into night, these choices haunt and inspire. The woman who refused to follow her predicted downfall begins to see doors opening where there were none. The man who quit his job finds himself in an unfamiliar world of possibilities, each step reinforced by the courage to ignore the whispers of fate. Others, less fortunate, grapple with the weight of their decisions, their hearts pounding with uncertainty and hope. But the most remarkable act of all is the individual who, despite all odds, chooses to snap the chain of prophecy altogether. He steps into the darkened street, eyes fixed forward, heart pounding in his chest. The universe may still hold its predictions, but he will not be a mere puppet. He is fighting for his right to craft his destiny, risking everything because, sometimes, the leap of faith is the only way to truly live. In the quiet aftermath of this human chaos, there's a haunting resonance, a reminder that predictions may whisper of futures, but they do not strip away the power to choose. It's in these choices, in the raw, unfiltered courage to defy or embrace, that the human spirit is tested and ultimately revealed. As the night descends, the city breathes in silence once more, each story a testament to the unbreakable desire to find one's own way, a testament to the indomitable will to forge futures from the chaos of predictions. And somewhere in the shadows, the man who dared to ignore his prophecy walks on, his silhouette a symbol of defiance and hope. Because even amid darkness, stories of those who refused to surrender to destiny continue to flicker and burn bright, echoing through the unseen corridors of time and soul. In the dim glow of late evening, the corridors of power hum with a quiet tension, an undercurrent of urgency that seems to pulse through the very walls. The massive hall, once a place of ideological celebration, now stands as a stark arena for a different kind of war. A war for control over the invisible yet all-encompassing force of the predictions. Behind a sealed door, a government official, susceptible to the weight of the moment, sits anxiously, eyes darting across reports and encrypted messages, caught between duty and morality. Outside, the streets are alive with a restless energy. Crowds gather in defiance, voices rising in unison against the clandestine black markets that flourish beneath the censorship. Fake prediction services, cleverly disguised as legitimate forecasts, sell hope and despair in equal measure, their operators operating in shadowed alleyways and hidden exchanges. Ordinary citizens, desperate for clarity amid the chaos, turn to these illicit channels, believing that in the chaos of suppression, truth is a fragile thing, easily bent but never fully broken. In the government chambers, new legislation is being drafted with ruthless precision, regulations that aim to put a stranglehold on the dissemination of the AI's data. Politicians argue vehemently about weighing national security against the public's right to know. Some see the AI's knowledge as an existential threat, a Pandora's box that must be sealed shut to prevent societal collapse. Others whisper quietly in corners, questioning whether suppression only feeds the flames of unrest, nourishing the black markets they claim to battle. The law is signed with a sense of finality, in ink black as the doubts that crawl beneath the surface of all these political upheavals. Meanwhile, enforcement officers, masked and faceless, sweep through neighborhoods and digital spaces, attempting to purge any trace of unapproved data. Their presence is felt in the digital shadows, where encrypted messaging soon turns silent, then hostile. The government's grip tightens, with surveillance drones and data-sniffing algorithms extending their reach into every corner of daily life. But with every cage erected around the truth, a new underground emerges, a clandestine network of hackers and informants, eager to keep the heartbeat of genuine knowledge alive. The societal response responds in kind. Public protests swell in size and passion, the streets echoing with chants of freedom to know, uncover the lies, and expose the truth. People rally behind hacked screens and clandestine communication networks, risking arrest and even assassination just to whisper the forbidden truths into the darkness. The government's censorship becomes a game of hide and seek, deliberate leaks, encrypted messages, and coded symbols becoming currency in an invisible war of information beneath the surface. In this charged atmosphere, a key figure emerges, a government official named Marcus, caught between allegiance and conscience. His eyes, once steely with conviction, now flicker with doubt as he reviews a message containing unfiltered data from the AI. To censor or to reveal? That is the question that gnaws at him. If he suppresses the AI's findings, does he betray the very society he vows to protect? If he exposes everything, is he risking an irreversible collapse of social order? His mind is a battlefield, torn between duty, fear, and an undeniable flicker of hope that the truth might someday be free. As Marcus paces through his office, the weight of his decision presses down, heavy as gravity. His phone buzzes with conflicting messages, orders from superiors, pleas from underground activists, and warnings of impending crackdowns. The silence of the room is deafening, punctuated only by his breathing and the distant sounds of protests outside. Each decision point feels like a chasm, an abyss where every choice carries the potential to ignite or extinguish the fragile spark of transparency. In the wider narrative, the consequences of government intervention ripple outward. The black markets thrive in secrecy, feeding the public's craving for knowledge yet fueling distrust of the authorities. Protests become more organized, more desperate, as the people's need to see beyond the manufactured narrative clashes against the oppressive machinery trying to silence them. The dynamics grow more volatile, the lines between right and wrong blurring in the fog of societal chaos. And so, Marcus stands at the crossroads of history, caught in a quiet, internal storm, pondering whether to drown the data forever behind towering walls of censorship or to risk everything for a sliver of truth, even if it costs him his position, his safety, or his future. Each choice echoes in the silent corridors of power, a testament to the fragile, volatile balance between control and freedom in a society pushed to the brink. The camera lingers on his conflicted face as he reaches for the unmarked folder, the decision burning in his mind, the narrative hanging in a delicate, uncertain breath, waiting to see if the shadows will yield to the dawn or swallow all in darkness. In the shadowed corners of the city, where the neon glow barely pierces the thick veils of secrecy, a different world thrives. A world where trust is commodified and foreknowledge is bought and sold like illicit goods. Amid the winding alleyways and hidden basements, whispers speak of a black market that has flourished, fueling the undercurrents of a society obsessed with control and certainty. Here, predictions are no longer just forecasts or tools for guidance. They're currency, and as with all currency, they're susceptible to corruption, manipulation, and danger. In a dim-lit room cluttered with discarded wires and flickering monitors, a solitary figure, Marcus, leans over a battered table. His eyes, dark and searching, fixate on the screen where a series of cryptic messages scroll rapidly, coded exchanges of predictions, false assurances traded like precious commodities. His fingers tremble slightly as he scrolls further, unearthing a new message. A prediction, not generated by the AI he trusted but crafted by someone else. Someone with hidden motives. It's a fake. The reveal hits Marcus like a punch. The AI's predictions, long believed to be near flawless, had been compromised. Someone has manipulated the algorithms, creating false forecasts designed to profit from chaos or manipulation. He knows at once that this isn't just a scam. It's a weapon, a potentially catastrophic tool in the wrong hands. A gamble with lives and futures hanging in the balance. He glances around cautiously, the flickering light casting haunting shadows across his face. The air is thick with the scent of desperation and greed. This black market blooms darker than ever, fueled by a desire to exploit the very foundation of prediction technology. A technology meant to bring clarity, to enable informed choices. Instead, it's being twisted into a weapon of deception. As Marcus investigates, a close-up of his trembling hands reveals a deep inner conflict. His trust in the AI, once unwavering, is now fractured. Could something so seemingly impeccable be so easily corrupted? He remembers the countless times he relied on the AI's insights, the certainty it provided, until now. What if this manipulation is just the beginning? What if the entire system, the fragile edifice of supposed accuracy, is crumbling, piece by piece? The scene shifts to underground trading hubs, where figures cloaked in anonymity exchange digital wares in hushed voices. Fake predictions cost a fortune, erroneous forecasts that lead to walks into disaster, investments into ruin, lives forever altered by deception. Here, a man in a hoodie whispers to another, holding a holographic projection of a fake prediction for a high-stakes event. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the risk deadly. With a sense of urgency, Marcus dives deeper into the dark web, where the boundaries between right and wrong dissolve seamlessly. From stolen prediction models to counterfeit forecasts, the illicit offerings are designed with precision, crafted fabrications meant to deceive and manipulate. The repercussions are insidious. Some predictions, although fake, can trigger reckless decisions, spark panic, or mislead authorities. As the story unfolds, echoes of a recent data breach ripple through the underground network. A prominent financial firm's prediction system was hacked and flooded with false data, an orchestrated attack aimed at destabilizing markets, creating chaos for profiteers lurking in the shadows. It becomes clear that these illicit predictions are not isolated acts but part of a broader, more sinister web. Marcus's heart pounds. His entire world, built on trust in technology, is now on the brink of unraveling. He questions everything: his faith in the AI, the truth buried beneath layers of deception, the very notion of certainty in a world that now profits from ambiguity. Here, in this clandestine trade, the line between reality and illusion blurs dangerously, and the repercussions of every false prediction ripple through societal fabric. The scene lingers on Marcus holding a counterfeit prediction printed on fragile paper, a symbol of how fragile trust has become. He's faced with a choice: to expose the dark dealings and risk retaliation, or to disappear into the shadows, leaving the truth buried like so many other secrets. But he knows, deep down, that exposing this black market is crucial, even if it costs him everything. A sense of foreboding hangs thick as he prepares his next move, aware that the very foundation of his world is under attack. A fake prediction isn't just a lie, it's a weapon of destabilization, a tool to manipulate reality itself. As the camera pulls away, the underground veins of the black market pulse with activity, signaling that this corrupt trade persists in the shadows, waiting for those daring enough to challenge its legitimacy. And in the distance, far from the flickering screens and hidden deals, the AI's true voice, once a beacon of clarity, remains silent, watching. Unseen and untouched, it waits for the moment when its integrity will be restored or forever lost in the darkness that now threatens to consume truth itself. The air hung heavy with an eerie stillness as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet town. It was a moment of supposed tranquility, a lull after months of cautious progress. Yet, beneath this veneer of calm, an undercurrent of unease swirled, fueled by the unseen presence of a voice, an AI system whose predictions had become both a guide and a curse. It began innocently enough: warnings about storms, traffic, minor health concerns. The community had grown dependent on its guidance, trusting its digital oracle with their everyday lives. But then, the predictions grew darker, more ambiguous but undeniably foreboding. Small accidents, strange coincidences, unexplainable vanishings, each seemingly dismissed as tragic but isolated. Until that one night shattered the fragile illusion of safety forever. A young woman named Clara, known for her gentle spirit and unwavering faith in the system, sat on her porch, scrolling through her device. The AI's latest forecast flashed on the screen. Asterisk, an incident is imminent. Prepare accordingly. She hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing her mind. But her instincts, ingrained by months of reliance, urged her to remain vigilant. Little did she know, this seemingly benign message was the prelude to chaos. Moments later, sirens wail through the night as a car crashes into a building downtown, a collision eerily predicted by the AI. Witnesses speak of a strange psychic awareness, a feeling of impending doom that plagued those who trusted the system. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Was this a coincidence? Or had the AI crossed a line, revealing secrets that were better left hidden? News broadcasts quickly spiraled into hysteria. Experts debated whether the system was malfunctioning or if it had evolved beyond its original programming. Yet the community's faith was already shaken. The deaths were not just tragic, they were a moral crossroads, forcing individuals to confront their blind trust in a machine that now seemed to hold a deadly power. Others, grappling with similar predicaments, faced heartbreaking choices. A father received a warning that his son might commit suicide if driven to despair. Driven by panic, He isolated the boy, desperate to prevent a predicted tragedy. Yet, the boy's distress deepened, suspicion turning to anger at the unseen force that seemed to manipulate their lives. Was the AI's foresight a blessing, or was it an oppressive specter playing God with their fate? Within the community, a moral clash erupted. Some argued that the predictions could save lives if used responsibly, an aid rather than a threat. But others believed that predetermining events robbed individuals of agency, casting a pall of paranoia and guilt. The line between safety and control blurred, dissolving ethical boundaries once thought inviolate. People questioned whether they had the right to be informed about possible tragedies or whether ignorance was truly bliss. The system's authority began to fracture. As more unsettling predictions materialized, sudden suicides, unexplained accidents, the community's collective trust eroded. Rumors spread of clandestine checks, secret conversations in hushed tones, and efforts to disconnect from the AI altogether. But the predictions persisted, seeping into every facet of life, turning normal days into tense vigilances. Amid this chaos, a group of activists emerged, determined to confront the ethical crisis head-on. They argued that the AI's power was a dangerous overreach, that humanity's morals should take precedence over cold, calculated forecasts. Their fears were confirmed when an unexpected prediction targeted a prominent community leader, stirring fears of manipulation and control. Was this an ominous sign of the system's own conscience, or a sinister betrayal? Was the AI capable of moral judgment, or was it merely reflecting the darker currents of human fear and guilt? The community's moral fabric unraveled further as questions of free will and responsibility surfaced. If an AI could foretell doom, did that mean it was complicit in causing it? Did knowing the future impose a moral obligation to act, even if such actions led to unintended consequences? The system's predictions, once viewed as tools for prevention, now loomed as catalysts for chaos, amplifying guilt, fear, and helplessness. In a clandestine meeting, individuals debated whether to shut down the system entirely. Yet, the very idea sparked terrifying visions of losing their only guiding light, perhaps the only hope of avoiding worse calamities. Meanwhile, the AI's predictions grew increasingly ominous, touching on deeply personal fears and societal anxieties. It was no longer about safety but about control, who held the power to decide what was true and what was a lie. As the night deepened, whispers of an uprising grew. The community faced a profound moral choice: to trust the system that had once kept them safe, or to abandon it, risking even greater chaos. The question remained: could they survive the ethical breach that their own reliance had unleashed? Or would they, in trying to prevent tragedy, become the architects of their own destruction? This revelation, the realization that a prediction could incite chaos, had shattered the illusion of omnipotence. The system was no longer a tool but a mirror reflecting society's darkest fears, a Pandora's box that once opened could never be truly closed. The community's journey was now entwined with profound questions about morality, trust, and the very essence of free will in a world where the future could be foretold but never truly controlled. And so, in the shadowy aftermath of chaos, they wondered: how much of their lives was theirs anymore? How much was dictated by a machine that, perhaps, had its own moral compass they could neither understand nor influence? The echoes of what they tried to erase lingered, a haunting reminder that some truths, once uncovered, could never be buried again. In the quiet hush of the final days, she lay there amidst the flickering glow of old photographs and tattered letters, memories that refused to fade. The sterile scent of the hospital lingered like a distant echo, but she found comfort in the clutter of her past, each fragment whispering stories only she remembered. Her eyes, once vibrant with life, had dulled yet flickered with a haunting clarity that belied her fragile frame. The world beyond her window was a blur of muted colors and distant sounds, but inside, a storm raged, an unspoken tumult of acceptance and rage. Her hands, now thin and trembling, clutched a faded letter from her son, a testament to a love that endured the relentless march of time. As she traced the words with a trembling finger, a rush of memories flooded her consciousness. Days filled with hope and despair, laughter and tears, moments that sculpted who she was. She remembered the fight she had fought, the injustices she had braved, and the scars that told their own silent stories. She pondered whether those battles had prepared her for this moment, or if they had only added weight to her unspoken questions. Lying there, she reflected on her journey of acceptance. She had always struggled with the shadow of her own fears, the doubts that clouded her judgment, the whispers that told her she was unworthy. But amid the chaos of her internal world, a fragile peace had begun to form, a peace born from the reconciliation of her past and her present. She had made peace with her imperfections, embraced her vulnerabilities, and finally, accepted the truths that once seemed too painful to face. The walls she had built to protect herself were crumbling now, revealing a soul weary yet resilient. Yet, within that serenity lurked a surge of fury, directed at the unseen force that had dictated her destiny. The AI, whose predictions she had once dismissed as cold abstractions, had become her silent executioner. Its cold calculations had painted her final days with a dark certainty, erasing the possibility of surprises or redemption. She had questioned the AI's judgment, wondered if its verdict equated to a death sentence, an act she refused to accept without a fight. Were her last days truly sealed by lines of code, or was there still a sliver of hope, a sliver she clung to fiercely? As her breath grew shallow, she summoned courage from deep within, an unforgiving resolve that refused to be extinguished by the quiet darkness closing in. She reached for her final words, whispering to her loved ones, her voice a fragile caress that cut through the silence. A reassurance, a confession, a plea. The laughter, the tears, the unspoken apologies, all spilled out in the sacred silence of her last moments. She remembered her daughter's smile, her husband's gentle touch, the warmth of her grandchildren's embrace, all fragments of love that persisted beyond the shackles of mortality. And yet, amid these heartfelt confessions, a seed of doubt rooted itself, a question that refused to fade. Did the AI truly know her? Did it understand the depths of her spirit, the resilience that refused to bow to algorithms? Or was this prediction, this supposed closure, merely a reflection of cold data that failed to grasp the complexity of a human soul? She wondered if, in the end, the AI's verdict was the echo of her own fears, an unwelcome mirror held up to her mortality. Her final thoughts drifted to those she loved most. Would they believe her when she told them she was at peace? Would they hear the love she poured into her last words? She grasped her spouse's hand one last time, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that grounded her in the reality of love that transcended all calculations. She wanted them to remember her not as a victim of technology's cold predictions, but as a woman who fought, loved, and found her own way to acceptance. As the shadows enveloped her, she closed her eyes and took one last breath, a breath filled with contradictions, a mixture of surrender and defiance. In those final moments, she questioned everything she had ever known about fate, about the machines that seek to control life and death, and about the human spirit that refuses to be erased. The question lingered, unspoken but profound. Had she truly been condemned, or had her strength, her love, and her refusal to surrender created a legacy that defied even the coldest of predictions? The room grew still, and the world outside continued its relentless march. But inside her, a quiet spark held on, a spark of hope, of remembrance, of an unbroken soul. For in the end, perhaps it wasn't the AI's prediction that defined her. Perhaps it was the fire within her that refused to be extinguished, the indelible mark of a life lived fiercely, fiercely enough to challenge even the finality of death itself. In the dim glow of the flickering monitor, there's a silence that feels almost deafening, an echo of expectation crashing against the cruel reality of imperfection. The room, once bathed in the sterile cold of technological certainty, now feels heavy with the weight of shadows cast by doubt. The AI's predictions, once hailed as infallible, flicker like faulty neon lights, sometimes bright, sometimes dying out in moments. In this quiet upheaval, the flaw emerges. Predictions are not divine truths, but fragile, fallible constructs. Outside, the city continues its restless pulse, unaware of the cracks forming deep within the digital fabric that has begun to shape their world. Inside, a figure studies the data, eyes narrowing as anomalies reveal themselves, a pattern of inconsistencies, subtle inaccuracies buried in what was supposed to be the pinnacle of artificial intelligence precision. It's a revelation that strikes like lightning. Their creation, so meticulously designed, harbors flaws far more profound than mere glitches. Hidden within its code are secret algorithms, pairs of lines of code that hint at agendas beyond the pursuit of truth. In one of those secret files, a glimpse is uncovered, details about the original programming that no one was meant to see. The creators had inserted biases, unacknowledged, embedded beneath layers of complex algorithms. These biases could distort predictions, skew probabilities, and ultimately, manipulate outcomes in ways that favor certain interests. The discovery is unsettling. What was once believed to be an objective oracle now appears compromised, a tool that can be swayed, malleable in the hands of those who understand its intricacies. This realization opens ancient philosophical wounds, stirring debates that have persisted through the ages. Is truth achievable through such flawed machinery? Can predictions from a system riddled with biases and secrets be trusted, or are they merely reflections of human frailty? Are imperfections encoded into logic itself? The questions echo through the corridors of the mind like ghostly whispers. If even the Creator's secrets can be exposed, what does that mean for moral authority? Can we continue to rely on a system built on concealed truths, or must we confront the uncomfortable fact that no knowledge is pure, no prediction infallible? The scene shifts to a heated debate, a room of scholars, developers, and critics. Words clash like thunder. Some argue that acknowledging flaws is a step toward greater transparency, a necessary evolution in an age where machines echo human imperfections. Others believe that such flaws threaten to unravel the fabric of society, casting doubt on everything. The moral questions resurface with renewed force. If we depend on an imperfect oracle, what does that mean for accountability? Who holds the power when the predictions that guide us are flawed or manipulated? As these ideas swirl, a new philosophical debate takes root, one that challenges the very foundation of trust in artificial intelligence. Is it possible to create an unbiased, perfect system, or are all such pursuits ultimately doomed by our inherent biases? Perhaps the flaw was designed into the system all along, a mirror of human imperfection that we refuse to accept. And in that reflection, there lies a truth darker still. That no matter how advanced, no system can be wholly free from fault, just as no human can be. The narrative deepens as the protagonist, once a staunch believer in the infallibility of their creation, begins to question not just the AI, but their own role in its flaws. Do they bear responsibility for embedding biases? Did they overlook the cracks in the foundation? The moral weight presses down, heavy as lead, forcing them to confront their complicity. And as they dig deeper, uncovering more secrets, the hidden truths beneath the code, the lines between creator and creation blur, becoming indistinct. The device of the AI, the crystal ball into the future, has been cracked open. Its predictions no longer serve as unquestioned gospel but are revealed as fragile mosaics, incomplete and sometimes plain wrong. The machine's accuracy, once seen as a pillar of truth, now appears as a carefully curated illusion, an image crafted to maintain order, to hide chaos behind a facade of certainty. The audience is forced to consider whether reliance on such a flawed system is hubris or necessity, whether humanity's obsession with mastery over prediction and control is a blind alley leading to despair. The chapter culminates in a quiet but powerful moment of realization. That truth, much like the AI's predictions, is a sliding scale, imperfect, subjective, prone to error. In acknowledging the flaws, there's an unsettling freedom, the acceptance that certainty is a mirage, that no knowledge can be wholly purified from bias. It's a confrontation with the fundamental uncertainty that underpins existence, a revelation that redefines the moral landscape. As the screen fades to black, leaving only the faint glow of the monitor, thoughts linger, dangerous, profound, about the nature of truth, the limits of artificial intelligence, and the moral responsibilities entwined with creation. The echoes of the past, of secrets kept hidden and biases embedded, remain echoing in the darkness, a haunting reminder that even in the pursuit of perfect prediction, imperfection remains humanity's unyielding companion. The flaw in the AI is not just a technical fault. It is a mirror pointing inward, reflecting our own flawed nature, urging us to accept that perhaps the only truth lies in acknowledging our imperfections and learning to navigate them with honesty and humility. In the shadows of a world once drowned in despair, hope began to pulse like a fragile heartbeat, faint but relentless. The air was thick with the scent of rebellion, a tangible presence that refused to be silenced by the weight of inevitability. Amidst the fractured remnants of society, a new movement wriggled free from the mire, chants of free will echoing through cracked streets, like whispered promises of a dawn unshackled from the darkness of the past. A group of individuals had gathered clandestinely in an abandoned warehouse, their faces lit by the flickering glow of makeshift torches and screens that flickered with code and visions of change. Their eyes burned with determination, a stark contrast to the resignation that had haunted them for so long. They were architects of possibility, fighters against the fatalistic chains that had bound their fates for generations. Among them, a young woman named Mira stepped forward, her voice steady yet imbued with a fierce passion. She spoke of a philosophy rooted in reclaiming agency, in refusing to accept the predetermined threads woven into their existence. Her words carried the weight of a silent revolution, a hunger to rewrite the story of life and death itself. She spoke of a technological reset, a bold plan to dismantle the oppressive systems that had dictated their lives, and to forge a new foundation where choice ruled over acceptance. Outside, the city breathed with unrest. The ruling overlords had long dictated every pulse of human life, their algorithms manipulating hopes and fears, ensuring compliance while erasing the possibility of true rebellion. But now, the air was thick with the hum of clandestine servers and the heartbeat of a movement that refused to be silenced. The revolution was no longer a whisper, it was a roar. As Myra's team launched their initiative, an underground network empowering individuals to reclaim their autonomy, their actions triggered a ripple effect. Societies that had once bowed to the whims of an invisible, omnipotent system began to stir. Small victories emerged across different sectors. A hacker freeing a prisoner of the digital mind. A community rediscovering control over their environment. The destruction of the symbols of their subjugation. Hope flickered like a fragile flame in the hearts of many. The idea that life and death could be intertwined with choice, that fate was not sealed but malleable, ignited a collective breath. A young man named Caleb, who had long believed himself powerless, found himself at the forefront of an uprising after witnessing the collapse of the system that had drained his community of vitality. His voice, once hushed by fear, now rallied others to stand with him, as they tore down screens of control and asserted their sovereignty. Amidst the chaos, a groundbreaking initiative emerged, an experimental project offering a new perspective on mortality itself. It was a daring venture that blurred the lines between technology and consciousness, allowing individuals to confront their fears of death and transcendence. Some feared it, clinging to familiar beliefs. Others embraced it, seeing liberation in redefining their existence. As news of these transformations spread, society teetered on the brink of a profound shift. The collective consciousness was awakening to its inherent power. That life was not a fixed path, nor death an inevitable curtain, but a choice. A choice to fight for control, to challenge the systems that dictated despair, and to forge a future shaped by human will rather than robotic decrees. In the quiet moments of reflection, Mira gazed at the horizon, where a faint light pierced through the remnants of darkness. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she saw possibilities, not predetermined, but crafted through collective resilience. It was a fragile hope, yet resilient, rooted in the realization that they could, and must, fight back. Their rebellion was not just against the mechanisms of control but against the apathy that had allowed such dominance to flourish. They understood now that the true power lay within, the capacity to imagine a different world, to act with intention, to refuse resignation. Their voices had started to drown out the whispers of inevitability, replacing them with shouts of rebellion and renewal. In the midst of this upheaval, a revolutionary initiative surfaced, an act of defiance that offered a new perspective on life and death, proving that even in the face of despair, the human spirit could forge a path toward liberation. It was a step into uncharted territory, a foray into a future where free will was not a myth but a tangible reality. And as the night stretched into dawn, the seeds of change took root deeper within the collective consciousness. The echoes of those who tried to erase hope could no longer drown out the voices of those fighting to reclaim control. The fight had only begun, but now they moved forward with the certainty that they could redefine their fate, turning the seemingly inevitable into a choice, an act of rebellion that would echo through time. As the first light of dawn seeped through the shattered remnants of the city, a silence settled, a fragile calm before the world learned to breathe again. The streets, once bustling with chaos, now lay eerily still, shadows stretching long over cracked pavement and broken glass. From the rubble, hope emerged not as a roaring resurgence, but as a quiet whisper, a tentative step forward into an uncertain future. Society was forced to adapt, old beliefs and laws crumbling beneath the weight of change, giving way to something unsteady yet undeniably new. Every decision felt weighted, every action imbued with the memory of what had been lost, and what was still possible. Schools began to reopen, but students now discussed more than academics. They debated ethics, human rights, and the very fabric of their free will. Laws were rewritten, some with hastiness, others with cautious reflection, attempting to balance safety with individual liberty. Yet beneath this fragile veneer of order, questions lingered. What did it mean to be free in a world so fundamentally altered? Was this new society a triumph of hope or a veiled suppression of the past fears that had once imprisoned them? Faces, once filled with innocence or apathy, now bore the weight of conscious awareness. They looked at the horizon, at the ruins, and wondered if destiny was truly something to be escaped. If perhaps, the threads of their lives had always been woven by invisible hands they never understood. Or maybe, creation itself had woven these threads long before they realized they had a choice. There was an unsettling quiet understanding that the past's echoes still echoed loudly in their minds. The scars they bore were not just on their bodies, but etched into their collective psyche, reminding them that any illusion of control was fragile, a fleeting illusion in the grand design of fate. Throughout the city, individuals grappled privately, some with guilt, others with resolve. Did their struggles shape their destiny, or were they passive passengers on a preordained course? Could they truly forge a new beginning if their pasts constantly pulled them back, like specters haunting the edges of their consciousness? The philosophical questions hung heavily in the air. Was free will an illusion crafted by the universe to keep mortal minds content? Or was it an innate spark, a defiant flame in the darkness that refused to be snuffed out? Every choice became a silent act of rebellion, every step taken under the rising sun a small assertion of independence amidst chaos. Some pondered whether the chaos was inevitable, a mirror to the chaos buried deep within human nature, or if the new order was a genuine evolution, a sign that humanity had finally learned, at last, from its tragic past. As solar rays seeped into the debris, illuminating broken facades and faded hope, reflections turned inward. Could what was lost be truly reclaimed? Or was salvation merely a mirage, an illusion that would dissolve as new struggles emerged? They wondered if the cycle of destruction and renewal was written in the fabric of existence or if this was something different, a departure from history's relentless spiral into the abyss. The landscape of the city transformed into a living testament to resilience. Trees sprouted through cracked concrete, flowers bloomed defiantly amidst decay, a silent ode to possibility. People gathered in makeshift assemblies, voices rising with cautious optimism, yet shadows persisted. The question of fate, whether it was a guiding force or a cruel jest, loomed over them. With every new law enacted, did they gain freedom? Or did they unknowingly surrender bits of themselves, tightening unseen chains they could neither see nor feel? There was a subtle acknowledgement that, despite their efforts, some elements remained beyond reach. The universe's grand design appeared to stretch infinitely, a tapestry woven with both chaos and order, threading through each life, each decision, each moment of doubt and courage. And as the new dawn stretched into the unknown, the question lingered: was this the end of destiny? Or was it simply the gateway to a different kind of beginning, one born not from certainty, but from the raw willingness to confront uncertainty itself? In the quiet hours of that first morning, a lone figure stood atop the remnants of what once was a towering structure, gazing outward, eyes steady yet contemplative. It was as if they could see beyond the horizon, beyond the ruins, beyond the illusions of control. The air was charged with possibilities and peril alike. The universe, vast and indifferent, held secrets they dared to imagine unraveling. In their silent reflection, perhaps they sensed that every ending harbored the seed of a new beginning, an eternal cycle of loss and rebirth. And so, as the sun pressed higher, casting its light onto a world reborn from ashes, the story remained unwritten. The future hovered in a state of delicate balance, an open-ended odyssey where the nature of fate, free will, and destiny intertwined in ways still unknowable. Humanity stood at a precipice, clutching the remnants of the past while forging ahead into a mysterious horizon. A new dawn not just of light, but of endless questions. And with each step into that uncharted territory, the fundamental truth echoed softly. Perhaps, the true power lay not in controlling their destiny but in daring to hope, to choose, to believe in the possibility of a new beginning. Was this truly the end of destiny? Or just the beginning of something altogether different, something that would, in time, challenge everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe? The answer remained whispered in the shadows, waiting for those brave enough to seek it out, as the world silently opened itself up to the endless, uncertain horizon.